Hold on. Well, in today's video, I'm just gonna talk about me finishing Tales of Berseria. Tales of Berseria, to be exact. Well, I beat the game at 79 hours and 46 minutes. Something like that. And something seconds. But I can't tell you guys the exact amount, because what that game keeps doing, it keeps progressing the time frame that it actually goes towards. In my natural like I was saying, my natural perception of the game was it was good. It was better than Tales of Berseria, and it was a lot easier than Tales of Berseria. Tales of Berseria was. I guess because the main protagonist is a girl in Tales of Berseria. Since she's a woman, I guess they made the puzzles a lot simpler, because in the Tales of Berseria game, the water temple was ridiculously hard. Even if I watched it on YouTube, I couldn't get past it. I couldn't get past the stupid water temple in Tales of Berseria. I don't know why they built it like that. Like, so to me, I'm like, okay, I'm like looking at it like, why was Tales of Berseria so much easier for the stupid water temple than Tales of Berseria was? Tales of Berseria, the water temple version of it, was ridiculously hard. I think it's because they perceive men to be smarter than women, or they need to simplify certain puzzles for the female perspective. They have to dumb down the puzzles for the water temple for the female perspective. I don't know. The predecessor of Tales of Berseria, the previous game before Tales of Berseria, was a lot harder, as the water temple was. This one, once you figured out how to do certain puzzles, you basically figured out what to do in the whole entire game, or in that section of the game. But I would have to say, for this game, the one thing that I would say that Tales of Berseria lacked was what I hated about Tales of Berseria was the same thing went for Tales of Berseria, but I didn't know it was that severe until this game. It was the crafting system for the stupid weapons. Like breaking down the same weapon, reforging it towards the only one weapon that you actually wanted to use. But that would mean you would have to break down every single other weapon and keep the one that you're actually using to focus on that particular one. And I was like, dang, why do I have to collect all these other weapons when I could just forge one? Like, I was thinking to myself like that. Like, why did they make it so... And if you're gonna make a weapon system like that for Tales of Berseria, why is there a limit cap on the items that you have in your inventory? That's the other one thing that I also hated about the Tales game. Tales of Berseria. There was a limit. There was a maximum capacity limit on how many items you could actually carry in your game. So I'm like thinking to myself, if they wanted me to do that, then why have so many of the same weapon? Why don't you just focus on one set of armor and one? Like, every town that you went to only has one version of that armor. You don't have to dismantle the same armor to increase the other one. I hated that part of this game. I was like thinking to myself, why is it like that? Like, why do you put a limit on how many items you could carry, which is a lot? Don't get me wrong. That part, to me, was kind of strange. Like, I was like thinking to myself, why did they do it like that? Why did Namco Bandai, who developed or distributed the game for this game, why did they do it like that? Like, I'm like thinking to myself, the game developers for Tales of Berseria made it so complicated that you had to dismantle the same weapon to craft the same weapon to make that one stronger. If they wanted to do that, just focus on one weapon. That's what I liked about the Tales of Tales of Berseria. I only had to focus on one weapon in that game at a time. I didn't have to focus in on the same weapon with different abilities attached to them and break one of them down to make the other one stronger. I did not like that feature in the Tales of Azustra game. I did not like that at all. And same goes for this one that I just beat, which was a lot easier. I think ultimately this game was good. Actually, I'm surprised that... Hold on. Let me look on my phone. This game actually got a 8.8 out of 10 on IGN, when it actually deserves maybe it deserves an 8 for Tales of Berseria. Honestly, based on how time consuming it was. You wasted more time either exploring on your little supply ship, or you were crafting weapons 50 hours into the game. And also, the one thing that I would have to say killed the game experience for me was the fact that I couldn't stream it off of YouTube. It totally killed my mojo. I'm like, when I was playing Tales for the very first time, when I first got the game, Tales of Berseria, I'm like thinking to myself, why can't I stream this thing? Why am I seeing nothing but a blue screen every time I played the game? And I find out a couple months later, or maybe a year later, a couple months later, that just to confirm what I saw was that the game developers actually didn't want you to stream it off of YouTube. Then why didn't they just disable that function when you wanted to stream it? Like, I don't understand that. That's what actually makes it give the impression that it deserves maybe a 7 or a 6 out of 10. Because the Japanese could actually stream it. I don't know why that was, but I think it's because they actually have the actual equipment to stream Tales of Berseria, to actually bypass the Sony camera's disable function. And I was like thinking to myself, why can they do it? I'm like, that's not fair. But I found out, I think because they have a certain way of bypassing that technology that they could actually do it. They have the right equipment to actually physically do it. But, which I don't have. So, I got over that. But, ultimately, based on what I experienced, I was hoping to stream Tales of Berseria for you guys, but when I was playing it, I couldn't stream at all. When it came to Tales of Berseria, I was like thinking, why can't I stream this thing? And then I find out that's why it was like that. So, but overall, how hard the game was, I would have to give it a 7 on hard, like, puzzle-wise, for the most part. Some puzzles were maybe a 4, and the water puzzle was like a 7. But that's my overall assessment on Tales of Berseria, because I was beating myself up because I could not figure out how to do it, and then I had to watch another YouTube video in Japanese to actually understand it, because I'm a visual learner. When it comes to certain puzzles, I need to actually see the game from another perspective while I'm actually playing the game. So whoever actually helped me with that puzzle, thank you. But once I learned how to do it, I figured out how to do it myself, because I was doing something wrong to begin with in the water temple puzzle. That's the strangest part. Why? And on that note, why do they always make the water temple puzzles the hardest puzzles in the game to figure out? Or they make it so complex that you can't even beat the game. So I'm like, I was about to give up when it came to playing that game for Tales. But I was like, I beat Nier Automata. So now that I beat that RPG, I gotta continue playing Tales of Berseria. Because I just got to, because eventually I'm gonna have to deal with the fact that I need to beat that game. And ultimately, based on having a water temple in that game, I was thinking to myself, can I actually beat this game? Because that's how I was thinking at the time. But what made it worse for me is that I couldn't stream Tales. This game right here, I could not stream this game at all. And I don't know why you could actually, when I did actually try to stream it, all I could hear was the sound in the game. Like, you could hear me talking, but all you could see is a blue screen. And I'm like thinking to myself, is my camera actually broken? See, next time for future reference for game developers, or if you're ever gonna actually have a game like Tales of Berseria, do us a favor. If you're gonna actually prohibit us from actually streaming this game, or any kind of game for that matter, just have YouTube have a white screen, like a ghost screen, where it says on the bottom, after you click on it or try to click on it, all it should say is this application cannot be accessed with this game. That's all it should say. But because you guys made it hard on us, Namco Bandai and the developer of this game, you guys kind of made it hard on us to play this game, because all it was a blue screen. And how do you want me to keep a record if you guys don't allow us to stream this? And honestly, I know it's about money issues, like you guys don't want us to make money off your games and stuff, but at least you should allow us to make a record of our accomplishments for what games you actually let us play and beat, to have other YouTubers or other people who watch us help us beat that game, because certain YouTubers who play certain games like this do not explain enough or show us how to beat this thing. Because for me, that's what happened with Tales of Azustra. Tales of Azustra went for the stupid water temple. Even when I was watching a video on it, I could not understand how to get from point A to point B because of the stupid shield. Didn't last long enough for me to actually walk across, for my character to walk across a certain area within 3 seconds with the water bubble on. And I was like, huh? How am I supposed to beat this thing? But overall, Tales of Berseria, I would have to say the only reason why you made it easy for Tales of Berseria was because you're mainly a woman character in the game. That's why I think it's totally unfair that you made Tales of Azustra humanly impossible to beat, and you made Tales of Vesperia a lot easier, which I don't understand that. Logically, shouldn't you make the one before, one after that one a lot harder, but with only some minor differences to make it seem easier? Mostly for this game, I saw a lot of games of Tales of Zeus, Tales of Vesperia. In this game, I saw a lot of Final Fantasy X looking puzzles, especially when it came to the water temple, because you had to move a lot of the stone, the water stone, to a certain place to activate this, and it brings me back to playing Final Fantasy X a lot. And honestly, Tales of Zeus, Tales of Vesperia, again, was a lot of fun, and I was laughing at the fact that near the end, near the middle of the game, I understood why it, 3/4 of the game, I actually figured out why they called it Tales of Vesperia. Because she basically, spoiler alert, she basically goes a little Velvet Crow, actually goes a little insane by the third fourth of the game, almost near the end of the game. She goes kind of insane, which I was like, okay, that's why it's called Tales of Vesperia, because she basically goes insane. So she's going mentally bonkers because of what they did to her. So I was like thinking, now I get it. Now I understand why that game is the way it was, the way it's called, the way it is. So, but overall, my favorite character though was Aizen. I always kept Velvet in my party, Aizen, Laphicet, and the girl exorcist in my party. I barely used Rokuro. I barely used the witch lady in my party. I don't know why, but I barely used those two characters. But the good thing about this game is when everybody levels up one, they all level up at the same exact time. But that's about it. But the weapons thing for upgrading and all that other stuff wasn't the best part in that game. And trying to find that totally killed the experience for me. Because I was totally bummed out. I was totally screwed. I was totally really bothered by it, because every time I would have to dismantle a weapon because my inventory was too full, and then I would have to make room for another weapon that I had to actually buy to get a newer weapon. Dismantle other ones to make room for weapons that I already needed. See, for the next Tales of Berseria game, I hope, or whatever Tales game you guys come up with in Namco Bandai, I hope they actually get rid of that whole multiple same weapon crafting to make that a better one. And I hope they get rid of that feature entirely, because that just takes too long. Because you're looking at least 50 hours of gameplay just crafting the same weapon over and over again. At least 50 hours. And if you're gonna have multitude of the same weapon for crafting purposes, just keep them in one section. Like, don't make multiple slot sections for the same weapon, but different slots. Don't let the same weapon or the same armor name take up different slots in your inventory. Like, that just takes way too... Or there should have been something where you could disable or discard any weapon you chose whenever you wanted to. If you didn't need it, just discard it. Like, I wonder why they didn't have an actual discard ability in the game. After playing it for 79 hours, I was wondering that same thing. Why isn't there a discard pile or discard feature in the game when you actually picked it up? And then there should have been a way you could discard different weapons or different armor or different whatevers when you didn't need them. Like, I was wondering that same thing. No matter where I looked, you could discard them when they're in the treasure chest, but you can discard them when you already picked them up and you have 5 different of the same name weapon, like the Amber Sword or whatever it's called, or something like that. Why couldn't there be a function in the game to discard any weapon you chose or any item you chose if you didn't need that weapon anymore, if you weren't gonna use it at all? There should have been that choice too, instead of dismantling the same weapon to make room for a different one. Because I was like, I got to a point in the game because I didn't dismantle all my weapons or all my armors. I got to a point in the game where my carry item capacity was full. So I was thinking to myself, why? Why is it full? Because I didn't dismantle enough. I don't like dismantling weapons. I don't think it's necessary to dismantle a weapon. I think it's more of a joy to have multitude of the same weapon, or just to be able to get rid of it if you didn't need it. So, my overall assessment of Tales of Berseria, it was a great game, don't get me wrong, but with all these flaws, or all these purpose flaws that I thought they got rid of that they had in Tales of Azustra, that I had to deal with in this game, which I thought they would get rid of in this one. I would have to give my overall assessment of this game maybe I wouldn't even give it a 8.8 like IGN did. I would have to give it maybe a 7.9, and that's being generous. Maybe a 7, but maybe even lower than that. 7.1 or 6.5 because of how tedious certain things were to do. I was like, no, do I have to dismantle this to make my weapons stronger? I was like, but in retrospect to that, at least I get New Game Plus in Tales of Berseria after beating it. So I would have to say that's a bonus, but that's about it. So if you're an RPG fan, I would recommend this game to you, but be ready to dismantle games or dismantle weapons left and right. If you haven't got an RPG yet, I would suggest to you get this one if you're a Tales fan. But be ready for dismantling weapons, dismantling armor, dismantling almost everything in your inventory if you're not going to use them, because that's the only way to get rid of the excess weapons that you have in the game. So ultimately, that's my experience with this game, because you're either exploring, getting items from that, and crafting weapons for 20 to 30 hours in the game by itself. But I'm not even halfway done yet, so in my first game. So I'm gonna try to find the last weapon for Velvet, upgrade, make sure I get that before I start my New Game Plus, and then I will upgrade those weapons in my New Game Plus feature, because otherwise I'm gonna be stockpiling a lot of stuff that I don't need. So if you're a Tales fan and you haven't got Tales of Berseria, I suggest you get this game, because it's very interesting on how this game was. But you cannot stream it. I don't know why Namco Bandai did that, or the game developers did that also. I thought my camera was broken because of that. That was stupid. But ultimately, it's a good game. Be ready for at least 80 hours of gameplay. At least. But you're looking at least for your first playthrough, at least 120 hours. Well, I don't know what else to say about Tales of Berseria, but it deserves a 6.5. Ultimately, I wouldn't say it deserves an 8. Deserves a 7. I would say a 6.5 based on how tedious certain things were in the game. I mean, very tedious. And that's my experience with the game. And plus, you couldn't stream it also, so that's why it deserves a 6.5 for Tales of Berseria. Yeah. and that's why I gave it the score of 6.5, because you couldn't stream. 2 points deducted for not being able to stream based on how tedious weapon crafting was in the game, and how hard the water puzzle was. So ultimately it loses about 4 points each out of 10. So 6.5, yeah, that's what I'm gonna stick with, or 6. So ultimately, that's my overall assessment of the game. I will change the title of what I titled it previously, but because I'm not a speed typer, so I always use my phone to fix titles with whatever I'm doing on gaming. So I apologize if you're thinking I'm playing Nier, but I referenced to that game a couple times, so my apologies. And I hope to see you on my next stream, or if you're gonna watch this later, so peace out. And I'm wondering what game I should play next.
Text to speech unavailable here. Text to speech unavailable here.